everyone, welcome to Biophilia, your all-time study mate. Today we are going to start a new chapter from class 11th about chemical coordination and integration with its first part. If you like this video and get some help, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our amazing channel Biophilia. Now as you know that your parents might be working in some company, इतनी बड़ी company है, MNC हो या it might be a national company, everywhere there needs a lot of work and the company to have a lot more profits and to go run smoothly, बहुत सारे कामों को एक साथ करने की ज़रूरत पड़ती है and many works going on together. हो सकता है कि कोई गलती हो जाए, something doesn't go right and that might be a problem. Similarly, कभी किसी को कोई बड़ा इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइज करना हो लाइक अ बर्थडे पार्टी और अ वेडिंग और सम अदर बेबी शॉवर और एनी काइंड ऑफ इवेंट दैट नीड्स टू बी अरेंज्ड, उसके लिए भी पीछे बहुत मेहनत होती है सो दैट इज़ गोइंग टू गो वेल एंड ऑल दैट मेहनत क्या होती है ओरिजिनली इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी नथिंग बट कोऑर्डिनेशन so that everything functions smoothly. So as these all events or the company to work smoothly, you need coordination. Similarly, your body as a big unit also needs some coordination. आपकी बॉडी जो है डाइजेशन है, रेस्पिरेशन, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, एक्सक्रीशन, मूवमेंट, लोकोमोशन और क्या नहीं करती है, everything a single body is doing it and that is not a small thing. It is a big task that needs to be coordinated. और coordination कौन करेगा? There are two coordinators in our body. The first one is going to be the nervous system and the second or the endocrine system. Now in this chapter we will deal with the second coordinator, that is endocrine system, in detail and let us understand कि ये coordinator, how does it function and what all things are present in this endocrine system. So let's dig deep and understand in detail about the endocrine system. Endocrine system जो होता है, it is an isolated system which is going to be having some glands which are going to secrete chemicals called as hormones. Now these hormones are going to be directly emptied into the lymph or it can be directed into the blood. So that is going to reach to the target tissues and finally that target tissue is nothing but somewhere else than the site of secretion. तो ये समझने के लिए you can have an example like someone is sitting in his cabin. एक cabin में से उसको एक message pass on करना है and the message needs to be passed on to the second cabin, that is say about 200 not 200, like say some kilometers or some meters away. So 200 meters for example, let's understand. So ऐसी condition में what is can be done? The email can be sent, office boy can be sent or any kind of phone call can be done so that the message can be sent and they both can coordinate so that the meeting can go smoothly. So that coordination, ये example से आपको क्या पता चलेगा? What is the source of the message? Source है यहाँ से, that is the secreting point of the hormone. जो message ले जा रहा है, that medium like the phone call or the email or the office boy, that is going to be the hormone. And finally जहाँ पे message deliver हो रहा है, the site of delivery or the site of action, that is going to be the target tissue which is going to be some distance away from the site of secretion. So I hope this helped you to understand about the entire functioning of the endocrine system. Endocrine system में क्या क्या होता है? There are going to be endocrine glands. Now these endocrine glands are the ductless glands, that is there is no duct present, and because it doesn't have a duct, it is directly going to empty the hormones into lymph or the venous blood. So what is the difference between the two glands? दो type के glands we have studied in the tissue chapter as well, where there are exocrine glands and the endocrine glands. Exocrine है, they are going to have duct and the site of secretion and the target tissue is going to be very near to each other, whereas in endocrine glands these are going to be far away from each other. So exocrine के लिए best example you can have now is the salivary glands. So salivary glands buccal cavity के आसपास होंगे and their release is also going to be in the buccal cavity and they also act on that region. So that is the exocrine. But endocrine के लिए ductless glands होंगे. So what are the different kinds of ductless glands that you are going to understand in this chapter one by one is going to be the first head region में, that is in your brain. You are going to have hypothalamus. After hypothalamus you have the second gland that you will study is the pituitary gland. Then after pituitary gland you will be going through the pineal gland. Again, this all glands are in your brain region. Fourth gland, once you come lower to that, you will have your thyroid gland. Thyroid gland के बाद you will have your parathyroid gland. All these glands need to be studied in detail in this chapter. Then you have your sixth gland, that is adrenal gland, that is near to your kidneys. Then you have pancreas, which is again an exocrine gland. Then you have your thymus gland. Then finally you might have the testis, or being a female you might have ovaries. So finally a human body is going to have exactly 9 endocrine glands. Testis for males, so that is 1, or ovaries for females. So it depends what the gender of the person is. So finally these are the exocrine glands that you need to remember and have to understand in this chapter. So अब ये सारे जो exocrine glands हैं, these are going to secrete hormones which will be taken up by specific organs. यानी these specific organs are nothing but the target tissues, and they will initiate a change in the metabolic actions. And once these changes are occurring, what is the difference that occurs between the endocrine system and the nervous system? अब दोनों भी coordinators है, दोनों को काम करना है so that your body intercommunicates with each other. So difference between the two, the major ones are going to be that the endocrine system is going to take time. So to send a message from one place to another, उसको time लगेगा. So it is just like a postman. Right? Endocrine system is a postman, but the effect will be long lasting because आपके पास letters रहेंगे. Right? Endocrine system कैसा है? It is like a post office system. It will take time to deliver, but the effect will be long lasting because it has letters, the hard copy of it. Whereas if you understand and go for the nervous system, वो बहुत quick होगा, but the action will be for a short period of time. So that might be, you can say, a SMS कि आपने आज भेजा, जल्दी से पहुंच गया, सामने वाले पढ़ लिया, mobile change, message deleted. So that is short period of time but quick action. So that way you can remember the difference between the endocrine and the nervous system. Now what are hormones that you need to understand in detail, because hormones को अगर समझ पाते हो then you are very well understanding the endocrine system as well. So hormones are, previously they were understood with a different definition, but the latest one has been presented to you, that is, it is non-nutrient chemicals. Non-nutrient because these hormones are not going to give you any sort of energy, or it is not going to help you build your muscles, or they are not going to benefit you any sort of a nutrient functionality. So these are non-nutrient chemicals. They will act as intercellular messengers. Intercellular यानी between two cells these are going to work. Right? एक सेल और दूसरे सेल के बीच में कम्युनिकेशन का काम कौन करेगा? These are the messengers. They are nothing but hormones, and very important, they are found in trace amounts, that is, these are found in very small quantities. यानी ना के बराबर quantities में रिलीज होंगे, but their action will be a much more longer effect. So these hormones are going to be having some properties. These properties are secreted from a living glandular endocrine cells, or they might be diffuse tissues or even diffused cells. These are directly emptied into the blood, released in small quantities. They do not provide energy or building material. These are regulatory chemicals जो आपके body functions को measure out कर सकते हैं. These are also going to form in response to a stimulus. Very important, to a particular stimulus they will be reacting, and they will be formed for that stimulus. They are highly specific for the nature, and they will not initiate the reaction. Very important point to remember, they will not initiate the reaction, but they can influence its rate. यानी स्टार्ट नहीं होगी, बट वंस दीज आर रिलीज द रेट कैन बी आइदर increased or it might be decreased. So it depends on what sort of hormone has been released. So now how can you explain the function of it is highly specific in nature? Highly specific है because once the secreting cell, that is the endocrine gland, has secreted the hormone, this hormone is going to pass on through the blood system से जाएगा, blood vessels में रहेगा. So the one which is not a target cell, वो उसे नहीं ले पाएगा, उसके receptors match ही नहीं कर पाएंगे. But once there is a target cell, there is going to be a specific receptor, and that receptor, once it gets the target cell, is going to identify it. For example, if you have the hormone of this shape, okay, circular hormone hai, and you have two receptors, say one receptor is going to have its, like this, and the second receptor that you have is going to have a depression wherein the hormone can fit. So यहाँ पे hormone fit हो सकता है, यहाँ पे hormone fit नहीं होगा. So what is going to be the case? This is not going to be a target cell. So this is not target cell, but whereas this is going to be a target cell, so that is nothing but going to be explained in this image, and that is what you can also understand by कि जिसका SIM card है. For example, if you have a SIM card, say of company Airtel का SIM card है, तो whose signals will be received? Signals कौन से receive होंगे? Signals will be received only of Airtel booth. Airtel के ही signals receive होंगे. Even if you have, say, the tower of Vodafone है, you have the tower of Jio, or you have the tower of Airtel, किसके signals receive होंगे? Only of Airtel. They will not be allowing the signals to come from any other company. So that is what is nothing but the connection between hormones and the target cells. So जिसका SIM card है उसी का signals receive होगा, वैसे ही जिस hormone का receptor है, only that target cell is going to allow the hormone to act on. So along with the properties of hormones, these properties are nothing but simplified and combined together to give you the definition of hormones, that is non-nutrient chemicals that act as intercellular messengers and produced in trace amounts. So for our study about the first endocrine gland, we start with the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus जो है, as I told you in the beginning, that it is going to be located in the region of your brain. So this hypothalamus is going to be an anatomical and a physiological connection between nervous system and the endocrine system. Now how does it occur that it is a connection between nervous and the endocrine? I'll explain you. But let us understand the position of hypothalamus. Hypothalamus जो होता है, it is going to be at the basal part of the diencephalon, and that is the forebrain. So diencephalon या forebrain में there is going to be a region which is going to be like a room. How is it going to be? It is like a room. So room में क्या होता है? Room में you are going to have two side walls, you have a roof and you have floor. So similarly, there is a room which is going to have two walls, two side walls, right? These side walls are nothing but going to be called as thalamus, right? So the upper part, that is the roof of the particular room, is going to be a network. It is like a jali bani hui, it is a mesh like structure, and this mesh like structure is nothing but called as epithalamus because it is situated above the thalamus. Red wala thalamus है, thalamus के ऊपर है, that is it is a epithalamus, and that is going to be a meshwork जहाँ से बारिश होगी. किसकी बारिश होगी? There will be fluid secreted, and that fluid is nothing but called as cerebrospinal fluid. What is it going to release? It is going to release cerebrospinal fluid into the particular room, right? ये समझ में आ गया, because cerebrospinal fluid is going to be the shock absorber of your ब्रेन. सो दैट इज गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम द एपिथैलेमस. अब ये रूम का लास्ट पार्ट बच गया है, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी नथिंग बट योर फ्लोर. सो फ्लोर इज गोइंग टू बी below the thalamus, and since it is below the thalamus you use the word as hypothalamus. So I hope you understood the understanding about the structure of the diencephalon, which is going to be like a room which has two side walls, that is thalamus. Thalamus के ऊपर है, that is it is a epithalamus draining out cerebrospinal fluid, and on the base of the diencephalon you are going to have hypothalamus. So अब ये hypothalamus ही है that we are going to understand in detail for this video. So hypothalamus is going to have a connection to the pituitary gland via infundibulum. So even we will understand through a diagram that how these are connected. And the hypothalamus, since it is going to be in your brain, it is a neural tissue. Brain है तो एक neural tissue है. So this neural tissue are going to have different kinds of neurosecretory cells, and these neurosecretory cells are going to produce hormones. So now you need to understand कि ये neurosecretory है, यानी ये ऐसे neurons है. What are these? These are nothing but neurons that are producing hormones. So neurons तो है nervous system के part, but hormones are endocrine system के part. So that is the reason we call hypothalamus as a physiological and anatomical connection between nervous system and the endocrine system. So the reason for the first point is going to be the answered on the fourth point. So these hormones that are released from hypothalamus are going to be regulating, and these are also going to be synthesizing in for the anterior pituitary hormones. What are these going to do? These are regulate the synthesis as well as they will be the secretion of the anterior pituitary hormones. And because of the hypothalamus releasing such hormones that are going to help the pituitary to regulate, these are called as master endocrine gland. जो मास्टर ऑफ एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड है वो कौन है? मास्टर जो है वो पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड है. बट पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड को भी हु इज कोऑर्डिनेटिंग? मास्टर ऑफ मास्टर, यानी बोलते भगवान का भी भगवान. सो मास्टर ऑफ मास्टर इज गोइंग टू बी नथिंग बट आवर टॉपिक, दैट इज hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is going to release two types of hormones. The first one is going to be a releasing hormone. That means अगर ये releasing hormone hypothalamus से release होगा, so these are going to stimulate, यानी वो pituitary hormones को release करने के लिए बोलेगा. So it has a positive approach towards the pituitary hormones, whereas hormones which are inhibiting released from the hypothalamus, this will not allow the pituitary to release its hormone. So it is a negative type of hormone which is not going to allow the release of pituitary hormones. So we are releasing hormones कौन से है, inhibiting कौन से है, let us understand. So there are going to be different 9 kinds of hormones which are being released by hypothalamus. They might be either releasing, यानी वो positive approach रखेंगे, or they might be inhibiting, that is a negative approach towards the pituitary gland. So the one thing we will understand is हम एक एक करके सारे hormones को देखेंगे. We will understand the name, their short form and also their control and regulation on the pituitary hormone. So first hormone we understand is the thyrotropin releasing hormone. So what can you hear from it? It is a releasing hormone. उसका क्या है? Positive approach है. That means the thyrotropin gland. थायरोट्रोपिन एक हार्मोन है वो जिसको रिलीज करने के लिए सिग्नल्स दे रहा है ये हार्मोन, यानी कंट्रोल क्या होगा? इट इज टू स्टिमुलेट द रिलीज ऑफ थायरोट्रोपिन. सो थायरोट्रोपिन विल बी coming out from where? This thyrotropin is released from the thyroid gland. So thyroid gland के ऊपर जाके ये act करेगा and it will ask the thyroid gland to release thyrotropin, right? Then the second hormone, that is growth hormone releasing hormone. So again it is a releasing hormone, that is it has a positive approach towards the release of hormone, और growth hormone releasing hormone है. So यहाँ पे किसका release होगा? It is the release of the growth hormone, and this growth hormone is going to come from where? It is going to come from the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland के ऊपर ये काम करेगा and it will ask the pituitary gland to release the growth hormone. So growth hormone का opposite काम भी एक करेगा, that is growth hormone inhibiting hormone. So growth hormone inhibiting hormone जो होगा, it has a negative effect onto the hormone that is going to inhibit the growth hormones release. यहाँ पे very important one thing that you also need to understand is going to be the second name of these hormones. So growth hormone releasing hormone or growth hormone inhibiting hormone ka there are going to be some different names that you need to remember. So the name for growth hormone inhibiting hormone यानी जिसका negative approach होगा towards the release of the hormone. So you can remember or write it down over here for you, that is GHIN, that is growth hormone inhibiting hormone. It is going to be having a second name that is called as somatostatin. What is its name? It has a name that is somatostatin, यानी वो statin है, इसको static बनाएगा. It will not be helping to release the hormone, but it will inhibit the release of the hormone. Whereas the growth hormone releasing hormone जिसका positive approach है, उसका नाम होगा stomatocrinin. What is the name? Somatocrinin, which is a very important point because most of the times they don't ask you the name, that is growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Instead of that, they are going to ask you the other names of them. The fourth hormone that we are discussing is going to be gonadotropin releasing hormone. So gonadotropin releasing hormone जो है, that means that is a positive sign. So gonadotropin क्या है? It is the gonadotropin that is going to come from the ovaries or the testicles, and these hormones are nothing but going to be either FSH or it is going to be LH. So what are gonadotropins? FSH or LH. The fifth hormone is going to be again a releasing hormone, that is prolactin. So prolactin को release करवाना है, and this prolactin is going to be helping in the production of milk. Prolactin क्या करेगा? It will help in production of milk, and production of milk कहाँ होता है? So what is the site of the action of this gland? Site of action is going to be the mammillary glands. So you also need to understand where is the site of action, whether it is releasing or inhibiting, and what is it going to control, right? फिर sixth है, that is prolactin inhibiting hormone, which is going to stop the release of prolactin, and finally the prolactin, as it is stopped, so production of milk is going to be inhibited. Seventh hormone is adrenocorticotropic hormone releasing hormone. So this is going to be stimulating because it is a releasing hormone. Then this adrenocorticotropic hormone ये कहाँ पे काम करेगा? This is going to work, that is ACT. This is going to work onto the kidneys, right? So this hormone is going to help to function the kidneys very well. Eighth hormone जो है, it is going to be melanocyte stimulating hormone releasing hormone. So melanocytes are going to be the cells which are going to release different kinds of pigments. So melanocytes releasing hormone, अगर melanocyte releasing hormone ज़्यादा है, pigmentation ज़्यादा होगा. melanocyte stimulating hormone inhibiting hormone अगर है, तो फिर pigmentation कम हो जाएगा. So these are the 9 hormones that you need to remember that comes from the hypothalamus. They might be either releasing or they might be inhibiting. So it depends. So यहाँ पे we also need to understand one thing, कि there are some releasing and inhibiting pairs. So if you understand about the second and the third, that is growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone, they both are together. Similarly, prolactin releasing and inhibiting hormone both are there. And even for melanocyte stimulating and melanocyte inhibiting, they also have a pair. So these pair needs to be remembered, whereas some other ones like thyrotropin releasing hormone, ये सिर्फ एक ही है, only these are releasing hormones. Gonadotropin releasing hormone and the third one, that is adrenocorticoid hormone releasing hormone, इनका सिर्फ releasing है. So the ones which are in blue, these have pairs, यानी उनका जो starting and stopping है वो दोनों के बटन्स के लिए hypothalamus is going to help, right? To start also, to stop also, hormones will be coming from the hypothalamus. But whereas the green ones which have only the start button, यानी सिर्फ releasing hormones है, they don't have the stop hormone coming from the hypothalamus. So how is it going to happen? So one example I can help you to understand, that is thyrotropin releasing hormone. So thyrotropin releasing hormone जो होता है, once it is released from the hypothalamus, it is going to go onto the thyroid glands. And as soon as it releases on the thyroid glands, वहाँ पे target cells होंगे which are going to release T3 and T4, that are nothing but the thyrotropins. So these thyrotropins, as they are going to saturate, वो क्या हो जाएंगे, these are going to saturate and they will come into some high max levels. As they comes into max levels, these will undergo negative feedback mechanism. What they will undergo? They will undergo negative feedback mechanism. यानी finally इनका जैसे ही saturation आ जाएगा, these are going to act as the stop buttons. These T3 and T4 will act as stopping or inhibiting mechanisms, and this will inhibit, what it will inhibit, it will inhibit the TRH, that is it will stop, it will give feedback that now please stop the release of thyrotropin releasing hormone. और जैसे ही यहाँ पे negative feedback आ जाएगा, then the thyroid will not produce more and more thyrotropins. So this is nothing but a system that functions for the hormones that we marked in green. जहाँ पे जो blue में है, that will be having their own start and stop hormones coming from the hypothalamus. So this is also one thing that you need to understand from the hormones that come from hypothalamus. One more thing I can do for you is how can you remember कि किसका start and stop कम होता है hypothalamus से और किसका नहीं होता है. So the ones who are going to have their pair, that is these are in double release, यानी उनका releasing भी है, उनका inhibiting भी है, those will be called having a trick. You can remember it as a trick, that is goods manufacturing product. What can you remember it as? Goods manufacturing product. So इनका जो initial letters होगा, that is going to help you to understand and remember कि किसका double नाम होगा. So G से goods है, so growth hormones will be having two things, manufacture melanocyte stimulating and melanocyte inhibiting, whereas P will be for prolactin. So these are going to have double things, whereas ones who have single release, सिंगल रिलीज क्या होगा, सिंगल रिलीज जो ग्रीन में सर्कल आउट किए गए हैं, those will be coming in the synonyms of tag. So T will be for thyrotropin releasing, A for adenocorticoid releasing, and G will be for your gonadotropin releasing. So green वाले are nothing but for single release, whereas the blue ones are going to be for double release. So I hope this trick will also be able to help you to understand the double and the single release. And double release का तो start stop you understood. Even I told you the start and stop mechanism for the single release of the hormones coming from hypothalamus. So moving ahead in the hypothalamus, how the hypothalamus is going to be connected to the pituitary gland. So pituitary and hypothalamus बहुत पास में होते हैं और उनमें एक connection भी होता है, and that connection is going to be with the flap called as infundibulum. So in the previous first slides we also saw that there is going to be a connection that is called as infundibulum. So this connection is also one time, ये this is the anatomical connection, यानी वो flap से connected है. But whereas hypothalamus is also connected to the anterior lobe of the pituitary. For example, this is not the exact diagram of pituitary, but you can understand. So there is going to be an anterior pituitary, right? Beach में there is going to be a vestigial part which is the medial pituitary, but this part is going to be vestigial. This is not functional very well in the human beings. And the last one is going to be a posterior pituitary. हम anterior और posterior pituitary जो होता है उसके ऊपर you are going to have our hypothalamus. So this is just a rough diagram so that you can understand it better. So hypothalamus say there is going to be hypophyseal portal veins that will be coming. So these hypophyseal portal veins are going to connect hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary, whereas hypothalamus or posterior pituitary का connection कैसे होगा? It will be through the neurons that will be coming from the neurosecretory cells. So it is very important to understand कि जो anterior pituitary है, anterior lobe connected by the hypophyseal portal veins, whereas the posterior lobe is going to be connected by the axons of the neurosecretory cells. So there is a system called as portal system. Okay, now this is very important to understand. What do you mean by portal system? So portal system we have already understood it in the chapter of circulatory system, but here also let us understand about the portal system. Portal system होता है when there is going to be a vein. Okay, center में there is a vein which is called as a portal vein, और portal vein के दोनों side पे, as even at the start even at the end, both ways there are going to be capillaries, right? So एक वेन है, दोनों साइड पे कैपिलरीज है. दिस इज अ वेरी सिंपल डायग्राम टू अंडरस्टैंड पोर्टल सिस्टम. स्टार्ट पॉइंट पे भी कैपिलरीज, एंड पॉइंट पे भी कैपिलरीज, दैट इज नथिंग बट अ पोर्टल सिस्टम. वेराज इन अ नॉर्मल सर्कुलेशन व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन, यहाँ से एक आर्टरी आएगी, राइट, यहाँ पे एक आर्टरी आई, यहाँ पे वो ब्रेकआउट हो जाएगी इनटू कैपिलरीज, एंड फ्रॉम हियर द venous veins capillaries will come and form the vein. So there is going to be only a single what capillary network forming, और यहाँ पे ये क्या हो जाएगा, आर्टरी आगे जाएगी और हार्ट से कनेक्ट हो जाएगी, यहाँ पे अगेन वेन से कनेक्ट. So this is only a single capillary system, whereas the portal vein or the portal system is going to have two capillary systems that will be functioning. So this is the difference between the portal and the normal capillary system. So ये portal system present होगा at the connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So pituitary or hypothalamus में you saw that the posterior lobe is going to have axons coming from the neurosecretory cells. So ये axons कौन से cells के आएंगे? There are going to be different kinds of nucleus which are going to be present in hypothalamus. Since hypothalamus is a part of brain, वहाँ पे neurons है बहुत सारे. So neurons, here you can see in the image as well that there are different kinds of colored coded neurons. So वहाँ पे the major important neurons that we need to understand are going to be the two neurons which is called as supraoptic nucleus, and the second one that is for our benefit is going to be paraventricular nucleus. So this is the first nucleus and this is the second nucleus for our importance. बाकी के न्यूक्लियस भी होते हैं, but for our study of hypothalamus and pituitary, these two are going to be very important because supraoptic nucleus जो है, it is going to be shortened as say SON. Right, SON is for supraoptic nuclei, and this supraoptic nuclei is going to help in synthesizing, and that is to secrete out two hormones. The first one, SON, is going to release the ADH. What is it going to release? It is going to release ADH, that is also called as vasopressin. So SON क्या release करेगा? Supraoptic nuclei will be releasing ADH, whereas the next one, that is the paraventricular nuclei, which is you can say as PVN. PVN is going to be releasing oxytocin. What is it going to release? It is going to release oxytocin, and these two nucleus are going to be very important for our study because these two hormones, that is ADH and oxytocin, these are going to be synthesized by these two nuclei, और उनके axons में से ये pituitary में, posterior pituitary में store होंगे and वहाँ से release होंगे. But where are they secreted? These are secreted in the neurosecretory cells, and these are nothing but supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei. So these are going to be coming down into the posterior pituitary, and there they will be stored and then released. So these chemicals which are going to be synthesized in the neurosecretory cells, यानी कौन से? the one that is ATH and the oxytocin. These are called as neurohormones. What are these called as? Neurohormones. So neurohormones के अगर example पूछे जाएंगे, then it is going to be ATH or vasopressin and oxytocin, because these are formed by neurons. So neurons का general काम क्या होता है? Neurons are just the cells which are going to have impulse transmission. What are they going to undergo? Impulse transmission. But these are undergoing some modifications and these are going to avoid impulses. But ये क्या काम करेंगे? ये hormone synthesis का काम करेंगे. So these are nothing but called as neurosecretory cells. So उनको न्यूरॉन का नाम हटा के क्या आ जाएगा? Neurosecretory cells. So since these are neurons but secreting hormones, so that makes hypothalamus as a anatomical and a physiological connection between the two, that is nervous and the endocrine system. So as we understood about the hypothalamus, pituitary, all the connections, hormones coming from here and there, इतने से काम में नहीं होने वाला है. हो सकता है you did not understand, and it is very obvious not to understand it in one go. But let us give it another try, that how can you understand all these connections and hormones that are going on under these two glands. So just imagine, keep everything aside and understand this, how is it going to function. So imagine yourself in the condition कि आप पढ़ाई कर रहे हो and you are suffering from cravings. आपको बहुत ज़्यादा भूख लग रही है. You don't have any other option other than eating food, because that is not helping you to concentrate in your studies. Cravings, very important. There is no other option, that you need food. That is only thing that you can do. So cravings हो रहे हैं. At this time what you are going to do, as kids of technology, either you are going to order online, that is using Zomato, Swiggy, Uber Eats, anything, or other thing that you can do is you can prepare your own food. So many people don't prefer to prepare their own food, but even that is an option that you can do. So order online अगर कर रहे हो, in this case what you are going to get, you are going to get ready made food. That is very happy condition कि आपको कोई मेहनत नहीं कर रही है. You are directly getting and pouncing onto the food and eating it directly. So that is one thing that you can do. If you are preparing your own food, you are going to get a tedious work. You have to go and find your ingredients. Ingredients नहीं है market में जाओ, उन्हें खरीद के लेकर आओ. And even along with it you need the recipe, because ingredients आने के बाद किसको किधर कितने amount में मिलाना है, that also you need to understand. So now prepare your own food, you need ingredients, you need recipe. So that is one thing that you can do. Or otherwise आलसी लोग order online कर लो, फटाफट खाना आ गया, you can eat it directly. Sometimes there are some people also that order online में, what they will do, they will keep it, okay, let me there, now I have food, let me complete one chapter and then we will go and eat it. So that system is nothing but called as, first it will store and then it will release, that is then it will go and eat. Whereas if it is preparing your own food, you are going to synthesize your own food, that is you are going to make your own food. So during this time what you need to understand is how there is going to be the relation of this situation with the hypothalamus and pituitary. अब connection ऐसे जोड़ना है that the posterior and the anterior pituitary are two people that have two options given, whether you need to order online or you need to prepare your own food. So food is nothing but the hormones, right? So posterior pituitary जो है, now he has decided that okay, I am not going to be the one who is going to undergo this all those tedious work. I will directly go and I will use the option of ordering online. So posterior pituitary ने सीधा option choose कर लिया of ordering online to directly get the ready-made hormones. So ready-made hormones तो मिल गए posterior pituitary को, whereas the anterior pituitary is left with the option of synthesizing its own hormones. So that is the thing that is done for the posterior and the anterior pituitary. Now what is the thing that you need to understand? Posterior pituitary जो है, it is going to store and release the hormones which are synthesized by some other gland, that is hypothalamus. So hypothalamus बना रहा है और डिलीवरी कर रहा है some other guy and the use is done by some other person. So for example, कोई एक रेस्टोरेंट में खाना बना रहा है, एक जोमेटो स्विगी कोई ऑर्डर प्लेस करके they are delivering it for you, and finally the use is done by the posterior pituitary. So now here you need to understand that posterior pituitary को जब hormones चाहिए to release it, it is going to come from hypothalamus, and once it comes from hypothalamus वो कहाँ से आएगा? It will come from the two nuclei, because store and release कौन से दो hormones हो रहे हैं? These hormones are going to be one that is ADH, or it can be vasopressin, and the other one is going to be oxytocin. So these are the two hormones that are going to be stored and released from the posterior pituitary. So ADH जो है, it will be coming from the SON. So it is secreted by, secrete कौन कर रहा है? Secrete कर रहा है supraoptic nuclei, whereas oxytocin will be coming from the paraventricular nuclei. So that is secreted, and these are the parts of hypothalamic nuclei, right? So hypothalamus से ये तो हो गया, and who is going to deliver it? Who is going to supply or help to come from hypothalamus up till the posterior pituitary? It will be the axons. Who is going to deliver it? जो डिलीवरी का काम करेगा, it will be the axons of these nuclei. So axons of neurosecretory cells are going to extend into the posterior pituitary, and they will be giving out these two hormones. And finally ये चीज़ को रिलीज कौन करेगा? एक बार डिलीवरी हो गई है, उसको रिलीज कौन करेगा? रिलीज करेगा posterior pituitary. So this is the entire system that goes between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary. Now what is the condition of anterior pituitary? Anterior pituitary जो है, since it has got the option of synthesizing its own hormones, so what is going to happen? इसको तो बस recipe और ingredients चाहिए. So recipe और ingredients कौन provide करेगा? Recipes and ingredients are provided by the hypothalamus through the portal system. So there is going to be a hypophyseal portal system that we discussed. So hypophyseal portal system is going to help to provide all the sufficient things that the anterior pituitary needs to synthesize its own hormones. So neurosecretory cells अपने सारे secretions portal circulation में छोड़ देंगे, that is the hypophyseal portal system, and this portal system is going to give all the things to the anterior pituitary. और anterior pituitary क्या करेगा? It is going to finally synthesize सारे hormones खुद बनाएगा, and it is also going to store, and it is also going to release the hormones. So this all is done by the anterior pituitary. So one such example of hormone coming from anterior pituitary, you can remember it as the example of growth hormone. So growth hormone जो होगा, it is one example that you can remember, that is secreted, stored and released by the anterior pituitary. So here we saw about the entire system, about how there is going to be the release, the storage, and even the different kinds of systems from where the hormones are going to come into the anterior and the posterior pituitary. अब ये समझने के लिए यहाँ पे एक डायग्राम है, that also you need to understand and go through. So यहाँ पे ऊपर hypothalamus है, there are hypothalamic neurons. One neuron type is going to go for the option of preparing the own food. So वो अपने सारे hormones कहाँ दे देगा? It will be giving it into the portal circulation, and that portal circulation is going to empty it out into the anterior pituitary, and anterior pituitary will synthesize, store and release its own hormones, whereas the lazy posterior pituitary is going to depend onto the two major nuclei, that is SON and PVN, that is supraoptic nuclei and paraventricular nuclei. और इन न्यूक्लियाई के एक्सॉन्स एक्सटेंड करेंगे और जैसे ही एक्सॉन एक्सटेंड करेंगे दे विल कम इनटू द पोस्टीरियर पिट्यूटरी एंड फ्रॉम देयर द टू हॉर्मोन्स विल बी रिलीज दैट इज ADH and oxytocin. So this is the entire description about the diagram coming from the NCERT. So this is an NCERT diagram, very important to understand, and this explanation has been given in a very good format in the example of your cravings of food. So I hope this helped you to understand the entire system about how the hormones are being interconnected from the hypothalamus to the anterior and the posterior pituitary. So if you liked this type of explanation wherein you are going to relate it to real life examples where you can keep yourself and understand, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छा लगा है या something that helped you to understand, don't forget to appreciate it in the comment section as well. So we'll come back soon with the next gland about endocrine system. Till then, keep studying, keep smiling. Bye bye everyone. Thank you.